Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly incredible. We're going on a virtual journey right into the heart of a deeply layered ancient mystery. We are exploring the remarkable city of Dara. Honestly, if you're into history, massive military engineering, or just a good old-fashioned archaeological mystery, you are going to love this one. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. 300. Now, finding a few skeletal remains at an ancient dig, totally par for the course. But here, excavators hit something completely wild. They uncovered the skeletons of over 300 individuals, all piled together in a single, massive, 3-story underground mass grave. I mean, just picture the scale of that.
So who were they? Well, the forensic and archaeological evidence paints a really haunting picture. These weren't just everyday inhabitants who died of old age. These were East Roman soldiers and civilians, the brave defenders of the city who actually perished during some absolutely brutal conflicts. And they were laid to rest collectively, waiting in the dark for Resurrection Day. It's this incredibly stark, humanizing reminder of the sheer cost paid to hold this ancient outpost.
So where exactly did these people live and die? Let's zoom out a bit and look at the strategic geopolitical landscape. Right in modern-day Mardin, Turkey, we find Dara, and because of its absolute sheer scale, its stunning architecture, and its immense historical weight, it's actually earned this incredibly majestic title, the Ephesus of the East. To really get Dara, you kind of have to understand the intense military rivalry of the late antique world. It's like a giant geopolitical chessboard. On one side, you've got the mighty East Roman or Byzantine Empire. On the other, the incredibly powerful Sassanid Empire. And they were just locked in this fierce ongoing struggle for control over the super lucrative Silk Road routes. Right at the epicenter of this clash between 505 and 507 AD, Emperor Anastasius I built Dara completely from scratch. It was designed to be the ultimate garrison city, basically to just lock down the border.
But here's the thing, Dara wasn't just some run-of-the-mill fort. It was a colossal statement of imperial power. In fact, decades later, the famous Emperor Justinian stepped in and massively upgraded the entire city. I'm talking reinforcing defensive walls, completely overhauling the water systems. He upgraded the place so extensively that it was actually given an honorary new name, Nova Justiniana. That is how big of a deal this was.
Now, I want you to just imagine walking up to the city back in ancient times. The landscape would have been absolutely dominated by these massive military engineering marvels. It wasn't just a place to live, you know? It was this highly sophisticated, totally impregnable machine of stone and water, explicitly designed to outlast long, brutal sieges. And when I say massive, I mean literally massive. 4 kilometers. That's the staggering length of the defensive walls that encircled the city. But they didn't just build a single wall and call it a day. These were built in a double-lined formation, towering up to an astonishing 20 meters high in some places. Add in 28 fortified watchtowers and deep, impassable trenches, and you've got a fortress that means serious business. Let's move to and see how this builds, because following the path of the water shows us how this incredible system actually worked. First, water gets captured way up in the northern mountains. Second, it's meticulously routed down through this intricate network of rock-cut channels and monumental aqueducts. And finally, it's deposited straight into these massive, heavily secured underground cisterns right within the city walls. The most famous of these is known as the Zindan, or the dungeon cistern. Imagine descending meters below the earth right into solid bedrock. You'd be standing at the bottom of a cistern 20 meters deep, looking up at these giant columns supporting the roof, all of it perfectly sealed with a specialized waterproof plaster. Basically, this subterranean lake is what kept the entire population alive when enemy armies were literally pounding at the gates.
But, you know, it wasn't all war and darkness. Let's transition out of those cavernous cisterns and step into the bustling, sunlit cobblestone streets of the Agora. This was the ancient commercial center. It was the very heart of the city, where social life and everyday trade completely thrived.
And what really brings this agora to life for us today are the actual artifacts excavators pulled straight from the dirt. We were talking bronze and gold coins from Anastasius and Justinian, arrowheads, spears, these really intricate Christian crosses, bronze lamps, beautiful ceramics and glass, delicate jewelry, and even everyday bone tools. This list is just incredible because it perfectly contrasts all that massive, heavy military engineering with the intimate, everyday items that prove this was a truly vibrant, living community. And this brilliantly illustrates just how integrated the military and civilian lives really were. The infrastructure they had here is remarkable. You have these monumental stone bridges with gorgeous arched architecture stretching right across the Karusu stream. And these bridges connected shops, a huge basilica, and a grand palace complex, all of it supporting a rich civilian life right there alongside the military garrison. Now, building a city of this scale obviously required an unthinkable amount of stone. And here is a truly surprising fact. In a district known as the Arab Girl area, miners carved out colossal stone blocks for all that construction. But the residents didn't just leave those massive rock cavities empty once the stone was gone. No, they ingeniously recycled the quarries. They carved them out even further to create functional homes, emergency shelters, and even tombs. Literally nothing went to waste. Speaking of tombs, let's step outside the city center for a moment and walk into the vast rock-cut necropolis. This sprawling city of the dead is easily one of Dara's most visually arresting and solemn areas. It features thousands of individual and mass graves, every single one painstakingly carved straight into the living bedrock. When you look really closely at the bedrock in the necropolis, you'll see these intricate reliefs carved directly into the stone itself. And these aren't just decorative flourishes. They are profoundly sacred scenes depicting doomsday and the resurrection of Lazarus. These carvings offer such a beautiful, yet kind of haunting glimpse into the deep Christian faith that really anchored the lives of the people living here. So the crucial point is, all of this incredible infrastructure, all of this deep faith, it brings our narrative full circle. Remember those 300 skeletons in the gallery grave we talked about at the very beginning of our journey? We now know they were the tragic casualties of those brutal Sassanid wars. And they were buried together in this sacred rock, surrounded by carvings of Lazarus, literally awaiting the day of resurrection.
You know, the only reason we can even tell this story today is because of the relentless, absolutely incredible dedication of modern historians and archaeologists. So let's transition to the modern era and take a look at the historical detectives who are literally unearthing Dara from the dust of history.
Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is that this hasn't been some quick weekend dig. It's a decades-long, huge, multidisciplinary effort. It began way back in 1986 with Professor Metin Ahunbey, moved through some really crucial rescue excavations under Professor Ahmet Beyazid, and since 2020, Associate Professor Hussein Metin has been leading this diverse team of archaeologists, anthropologists, and restorers. Together, they are out there painstakingly restoring cisterns, cleaning the agora, and carefully mapping that massive necropolis.
And all that incredible ongoing work leads us perfectly to a final thought. Knowing everything we've just uncovered, the sprawling underground cisterns, the tragic mass graves, the bustling hidden agora, how many more secrets are still waiting beneath the rocks of Dara? I mean, we have only just scratched the surface of the Eastern Mediterranean's greatest garrison city. What a profoundly fascinating place. Thank you so much for exploring it with me today. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.